Hey man, I'm roving in my fridge. On last week's show, we had news items suggested by our audience. These included extreme backward cycling, can curtains cause illnesses, spatula, pillowcase, the loneliness of a hamster trainer. So special thanks to Anchu, Gabby and Susie. Enjoy the show.
The Sprouts News at 7 o'clock-ish. And you've tuned in on a very special day. We've got a big topic on today's show, and we are asking the question, can curtains cause illnesses? Now, we've had a report from one of our independent correspondents, Susie, saying that curtains could cause an illness. Perhaps she's experienced that. But we are going out there to find definitively whether you could get an illness from a curtain. And we've got a team of reporters and experts around the world and in the studio to uncover all the information we can, and share it all with you. You are going to be experts in curtain illnesses at the end of this show. That's a guarantee. So our first reporter that we're going to go to out there in the field is Pete. So Pete, can you hear me?
Yes, James, I am here in front of what up until now we thought of as our friend, the curtains. They've been with us for a long time, protecting our windows, keeping out drafts and keeping out the sun when we want to have a lie-in. But now we are faced with the possibility that they could be causing us illness. These curtains behind me are regular curtains, and but scientists have been testing these and curtains like them, looking for ways that they could be causing us illness. There have been reports of many people being sick, and it's being blamed on curtains at the moment.
Do you think you're safe now where you are, Pete? With those curtains seem very close to you.
Well, I have been assured by scientists that these curtains they have found no reason why these curtains should be causing illness, but they also, so far, cannot explain why curtains are making us sick. All they can say is there does seem to be a link between curtains and sickness.
I see. Well, hopefully we can answer that in a few moments, because we've got an expert in the studio to talk to you about that. We're going to come back to you, Pete, later in the show for an update. Hopefully some breaking news from you with the curtains.
Well, indeed, I will be here with the curtains. I will be, doing whatever it takes to make this story the top story and me the top reporter.
Fabulous. Looking forward to hearing from you later, Pete. And as I said, there is an expert in the studio, and they are over in the undecorated part of the studio. So I'm going to go there now. And we are going to speak to Dr. Pelmit. Dr. Pelmit, thank you for joining us on today's show. This is shocking, possibly a shocking revelation about the curtains linked to illnesses. Could you tell us a bit more about the science?
It's very grave indeed. We've started getting reports about a month ago, and actually from Canada, my Canadian colleague Anne Chu has first discovered this illness, and she sent a report of death and fury in Vancouver. That's where it all started, and we noticed that the lack of sunlight and moonlight has been causing horrible health issues to humans all over the world, and that's mostly due to curtains, and what we thought was just blocking out light, blocking out annoying light or just sound or whatever, is actually been affecting our health, because we do need the sunlight and moonlight.
I see. So is this a fairly new phenomenon? I'm not sure how long curtains have been around with us.
Well, it's definitely gotten worse. I think, with people spending less time outdoors has obviously made it worse. Obviously curtains have been around for a long time, but at the same time, people would be outside more and therefore get the sunlight and moonlight themselves. But with staying indoors more, obviously it's become a more urgent issue now.
See, what would be your advice for people who can't sleep with the light coming in from the window?
We're working now on possible solutions. One of them, what I realised might help, is substituting curtains with pillowcases and placing them so that they cover just the sort of they make the right amount of shade for your face, so that can't bother, and so you can strategically set them so that it won't bother you, but you'll still get the benefit of the light coming in.
Brilliant. Dr. Palmett, we're going to come back to you later in the show to hopefully get some more insight on what people can do in their own homes and the dangers that we are really facing with these curtains. Yes. And so we'll speak to you later. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
So we also have our top reporter on this story. It's very exciting, and he is out there ready to give you a report right now. John, can you hear me?
Yes, James, I can hear you. Can you hear and see me?
Yes, I can, John.
That's brilliant, James. And yes, it's true. Curtains can cause illnesses. And our curtains expert Dave Hinsby has told me today that curtains are deadly. But why? Why are curtains deadly? Dave has looked into this, and the real culprit behind this is actually the net curtain. Yes, the net curtain, which was discarded so widely throughout the country as being old-fashioned in the 1990s, has come to get its revenge. Actually, Dave says that the curtain has become a sentient being. It is now joining up with the theatre curtain because no one's going to theatres anymore. The theatre curtain has been ignored. They're joining up with the net curtains and they're coming to get us. Get us. Get those curtains down now. Ignore the curtains. This is an emergency, James. Back to you.
Wow, it does sound very urgent indeed. Talk of death, we heard about some deaths in Canada and Fury, and now some sentient curtains. So we will go back to Dr. Palmett soon to get her comments on these developments. But before that, we need to pay the bills, so we're going to go to a commercial break. But do stay tuned, and we'll be back with this top story after these words.
This is Vicky. She's sad because her pillow is covered in dog hair and she doesn't know if she needs to sweep it or vacuum it up. Well, now there's a solution. A spatula. Just bang it on the pillow and the hair goes away. And you can vacuum it up later. Keep on banging, Vicky.
Yes, do go out and buy a spatula as soon as you can. It supports our show and also helps you get rid of dog fur. It can also get rid of hamster fur, human hair, any type of fur or hair-like substance. You can bash it out with a spatula. Now, back to our top story of the question about curtains and illnesses. It seems like it has been definitively answered that curtains are dangerous. But let's get some more insight on that with our expert, Dr. Palmett. I'll go over to her now. So, Dr. Palmett, we've heard that some curtains, net curtains especially, have become sentient and they are killing people.
Yes, well, that is scientifically non-proven speculation. There are groups of conspiracy theorists who go on about sentient curtains and whatnot, and that is not supported by science. So I don't know where they get their information, but it is not the truth.
I see. Well, Pete is with a set of curtains, so hopefully later in the show we can find out whether they are sentient or not. But what have you got to say about the deaths? You mentioned in Vancouver there was some death and fury. Could you tell us a bit more?
Yes, well, the illness has been manifesting itself in different ways. In some cases is brought to physical decay and death, whereas in other cases has brought onto some mad cases of fury and people going mad and real aggression coming out. So there seem to be two branches of the illness, and we're trying to figure out what makes one or the other.
I see. Okay. Well, yeah, I'd like to know that myself. I don't want to either die or go mad. So I hope you're working on the site. Oh, sorry, I've just heard, Dr. Palmett, there is a breaking news story coming in from one of our independent correspondents. I'm going to read it out as soon as it pops up on my teleprompter here. This is definitely a big story. I can't even explain how big a story it is. Can you feel the gravity of this, Dr. Palmett?
I mean, that is it sounds incredible. It must be something very urgent for it to pop up like this.
Yes.
I wonder, is it going to be a catastrophe, or what else has this year in store for us?
It's definitely a huge story, definitely huge. And it's just going to come in any moment now via one of our independent correspondents. And yeah,
You know,
here it is. Dogs protest over usage of downward dog in yoga. This is a staggering story. Yoga is one of the biggest phenomena around the world. And for them to be sued at this stage of the progress in yoga, this could be catastrophic to health fanatics around the world. What do you have to say about this, Dr. Palmett?
Well, I think it was about time, to be honest. I mean, it's type of cultural appropriation that has been talked about lots lately, and I think it's only right for dogs to finally have their say.
I see. I wonder if it's going to affect cat and cow, crow and pigeon pose.
I wouldn't be surprised if they were right behind it.
Okay, well, with more on this shocking story, we're going to go live over to John now. Sorry we had to cut our interview short, Dr. Palmett.
No, it's
John, come in. Staggering stuff.
It is staggering, James. Just when we thought we'd heard everything to do with the curtains, now we hear that dogs are protesting over the usage of downward dog in yoga. And throughout the world at the moment, dogs are turning up at yoga centres, all types of yoga, hot yoga, Ashtanga yoga, and they're out there barking at the people, trying to go in, trying to get their relaxation, and they can't come in. Now, people are really taking this seriously now because they're worried that if it starts with dogs, we don't know whether the cobras will start coming in and attacking people. I think we should take this seriously, James. Don't take your relaxation for granted, people. The dogs are out there. What will come next?
Yes, thank you, John. Yes, very wise words there. The cobras might come next. So please, whatever you do, do not do yoga. It is going to be dangerous for you because the animals are revolting. We'll be back with more news on all of these top stories very soon. But first, we're going to go to our roving reporter, Dave, who's out there getting the voice of the people. That's right. The people are speaking, and they're speaking to Dave. So, Dave, where are you roving from today?
Hey, man. I'm roving in my conservatory, and I've got a little friend here. It's a hamster. And they're in the news. I don't know if you read it, but hamster trainers are becoming very lonely. And so I've got a few people here who are going to be talking to me about their experiences with hamsters. And maybe they're lonely. We'll find out.
I've been training this. It's tough work. Lonely.
Is that a hamster?
I mean, she told me she was. I've been feeding her, training her to, jump up on the couch, make me tea.
Can she do tricks?
Close your eyes. Open your eyes. Now, recite the first 3 chapters of the Bible. See, she can't do that. We're still working on that.
I think you're wasting our time. I think this is James. If you're in the studio, this is not a hamster. Is there someone here who actually has a hamster?
Hi, mate. Yeah, I've been training hamsters for years, and now I've trained hamsters to perform Romeo and Juliet live on stage.
Do they speak?
Yes, they do speak in hamster language. They don't so much as speak, they squeak.
Oh, would you like to give us an example of the speech?
Well, I can say the speech. Oh, but I've got my prime hamster here. I will ask her the question, and she will reply. That's the.
There you have it, James. Hamsters, they're doing Shakespeare. Back to the studio.
Excellent stuff. I'm looking forward to seeing Hamster Hamlet very soon. So we're now going to go back to our top story, which is that curtains are causing illnesses. And we have an update from Pete, who's out there in the field. So Pete, come in, please.
Yes, I'm here in one of the many manor houses that are used by scientists in their curtain research. And I have with me an expert, Dr. Bumfrey, curtain expert, who is an expert on curtains. Dr. Bumfrey, this is a major thing, isn't it? This is very serious.
Oh, it's not as major as the people are making it out to be. I'm not at all worried about my curtains or anyone else's, for that matter.
Oh, so you're saying it's not something that we should be concerned about?
I don't believe so. Just the fact that many personnel in my factories have died is no importance at all. Curtains are not to be feared, and you should buy them immediately.
Well, yes, but I mean, surely it's some concern that people in your factory have died. In fact, there have been your factories have been listed as one of the most dangerous workplaces there is in the country.
Well, yes, there's various protesters saying that the curtains are alive, the curtains have feelings, they have rights, all of this. It's utter nonsense. You shouldn't pay any attention, should they, dear? Oh, sorry, my pet curtain over there.
It's true that you seem to have more respect for curtains than people.
Oh, I would agree with that, yes, definitely. I don't like people as a general rule, hence why I live in this big lonely mansion, just me and my curtains.
There certainly seem a lot of curtains. Last year, you controversially appointed a whole board of directors to your company who were entirely curtains.
That is correct. That is very, very true. Very trustworthy people, the curtain. You can't trust a person with it, you can trust a curtain.
But I put it to you that a curtain cannot disagree with you, and so it kind of means you're unopposed on the board of your own company.
Exactly. I don't want someone saying, no, sir, you can't possibly do that when I want to do it. It's my company. The curtains listen to me.
Well, thank you, Dr. Bumfrey. There you have it, James. Another side to the story that there isn't sickness, but it seems that there is corruption at the heart of carpets. I will be back to you later. I'm going to do further investigating.
The curtains are attacking!
Oh, goodness me. We hope that Dr. Bumfrey is okay, and we hope that Pete, who's in the room with him, is also okay. We'll hopefully come back to Pete later in the show. Thank you, Pete, for another impartial interview there. And while we wait to hear on Pete's well-being, we're going to go to a film review, because it's not all serious news here, it's also culture. So we're going to go over to Vicky with a very special guest director. Over to you, Vicky.
Yes, hello James, thank you and welcome to this week's film review. This week is very special to me as we're welcoming back one of my favorites. You might know him from 2018's big success, Death and Fury in Vancouver. That was the big hit and he's the new hottest thing in Hollywood, but today he's back and he's talking to us about his new feature film coming out next week, Extreme Backwards Cycling.
Hello Vicky darling, lovely to talk to you.
Hello, Arjun and Ponsonby Johnson, and welcome back. We're so happy to have you.
Can I just say, before you say any more, what an honour it is to be talking to you. I've seen your previous hard-hitting interviews with the likes of Gemma Collins, and of course your work with Keith Lemon was unparalleled.
Wow, thank you. But it's really my honor, Algernon, and I can't wait to hear you talk to us about this new movie. It's quite different from the previous one, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. I mean, I've always been associated with hard-hitting films, and to do a comedy set in the Highlands of Scotland obviously was amazing. And of course, Extreme Backward Cycling, it does exactly what it says on the tin. You know, we had a blast filming it. There are lots of men and women cycling backwards in an extreme fashion, and we had to have a lot of stunt people for the film because obviously 22 people got quite seriously injured actually, and there were a lot of back injuries, but we got through it in the end. And we did have to use some mannequins, as you can see from the promotional photo below. There were so many injuries, we ended up doing all the promotional material with mannequins. So yes.
Yes, sorry, a plane was going in the studio. I heard that you got the idea from being in France 5 years ago, watching the Tour de France, and that's when the story popped in your head. Would you tell us more about that?
Yes, of course, darling. Well, there was that absolutely horrendous incident in that Tour de France where one of the leading pack disappeared from the peloton and crashed and got impaled on a spike. And you can see the very place where it happened there. Obviously, it was in the news at the time. And I thought it was absolutely hilarious. And I thought, I've got to recreate that in my next movie. So in Extreme Backward Cycling, which is, to all intents and purposes, an out-and-out comedy, we have some amusing incidents with impalings on spikes. I don't want to give away the plot too much, but needless to say, it's blooming well hilarious.
Yes, I would agree with that. I nearly fell off my chair watching this bit. And there's this passage which is a massive contrast, I have to say. This film is hilarious, as you said, but there's also something very dark about it. And I'm thinking of that scene with the mask.
Yes, of course. And, you know, it's a little nod to awards season, you know, because it's very rare for comedy films to be nominated for any kind of Academy Awards, even the Ballet Golden Globes, you know, very rarely get a look in comedy-wise. And that's when we had one of those Oscar-type masks from the BAFTAs actually get stuck to one of the lead characters' faces, and it actually becomes a part of him. And there is quite a serious moment where it's a kind of juxtaposition between out-and-out laughter and also being horrendously disfigured for life and realising you're going to have an absolutely terrible time for the rest of your days. So, you know, it's something we're all considering these days. You know, not everybody's as well off as us and having a great time as we are, you know, so you have to appeal to those people as well.
Yeah, and I think you did. Will you tell us about the production and how it went behind the scene? We're eager to learn because you mentioned that some people got injured, but we want to know if it was a terrible shoot or if it was still in good spirit.
Very rarely for a comedy, I have to say, nobody got on very well whatsoever. They all stayed in their trailers, and there was a lot of complaints because a lot of them were vegetarians and vegans. And I'd organised this catering truck that just specialised in bacon rashers, you know, and I thought everybody would love a bally bacon sandwich first thing in the morning, you know, darling. And I was out there, a couple of the other guys, but many people were up in arms over it and bringing in salads from home and complaining about lack of catering. But, you know, at the end of the day, I'm sure the film will do well, regardless of the miserable bastards who were working on it. And I'm hoping to get some kind of directorial nomination for something. And then we all move on to the next one, you know.
Well, considering the movie is going to be a huge success, I'm sure they'll all look back on it with regret, I believe.
Yes, there's no doubt of that. You know, with that many injuries, that many people upset at the food and drink that was provided, nobody's looking back on it fondly right now. But, you know, when a film makes over 100 million at the box office, you'll always say it was marvellous.
Well, I'm sure they will, and it was indeed marvelous to speak to you again. We are so happy to have you, and I can only encourage people to go and check out your movie Extreme Backward Cycling. It's next week in every theatre across England. Please have a big round of applause for Algernon Ponsonby Johnson. Thank you so much for it.
Thank you, darling. Thank you to all those people watching. I'll see you again soon. Cheery bye.
Bye. Back to you, James.
Thank you, Vicky, and thank you to our guest, Algernon Ponsonby Johnson. Do go out and see his film, Extreme Backward Cycling. You're in for the laugh of your life. Now, back to today's top story, which is that curtains, maybe sentient, maybe not, definitely causing illness and death. So let's go over to Pete with an update on this story.
Yes, James. I mean, dramatic turn of events. The last interview. Sad news that I should report is that Dr. Humphrey Bumfrey is no longer with us. He was killed by one of his own curtains, and I'm going through his house and uncovering lots of he was the level of corruption and his misuse of not only humans but actually curtains as well, the curtains that he professed to love. I found this room here, which seems to be some sort of pleasure room. These curtains are here, and there's also these curtains that are kind of lying around that it's quite nice to cuddle. And you know, there is talk of them being sentient. I've been telling this one some of my problems, and I have a lot of problems. My career is a little bit, you know, I'd like to progress further, but it doesn't always, you know, sometimes there's always someone ahead of you that you kind of in the way, and somehow these curtains are listening, and that's important for all of us. Thank you very much. Back to you, James.
Wow, thank you, Pete. An interesting turn there in the story. The curtains might kill you, but they might just listen to you. Maybe it depends how you treat them. It does seem that Humphrey Bumfrey, may he rest in peace, was quite cold and cruel to his curtains, and he got his comeuppance. So tonight, before you go to bed, give your curtains a stroke, give them a talk, tell them you love them, and hopefully you'll all be safe. And if you are safe, you can join us next week for the Sprout News. That's it for today, but we do have Alistair with a thought for today.
Hello there. You know, they say ferrets are secretly evil. I say, aren't we all secretly evil? Bye-bye.
Yes, I always agree with what Alistair says. So that concludes the Sprout News for today. Thank you so much for joining us. We didn't have time to talk about false eyelashes or makeup for cars. We didn't have time to talk about the Sword Swallowers Academy. And we didn't have time to talk about the National Shark Clown Day. Well, we'll be back with much more news next Sunday at 7 p.m.-ish. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you again next time. Yes, thank you very much for joining us for Sprout News. That was our show. Please give yourselves a round of applause for all your wonderful suggestions. Our independent correspondents, you were fantastic. A round of applause for you. And please keep that applause going for all the performers you saw today. You saw Pete. You saw Carlotta. You saw John. You saw Dave. You saw Vicky. You saw Alistair. You saw our special guest Ben. And you saw Gregory. And hopefully I haven't missed anybody out. If I have, pop on screen. Thank you to all our wonderful performers, including Gregory the Ghost. And please give them a round of applause. And also thank you to our special guest, Algernon Ponsonby Johnson. Ben, would you like to say a few words?
Yeah, sure. I'd just like to say thank you very much for having me. The guys and girls at Sprout, absolutely wonderful again. And if you've enjoyed this programme, do tune in every week because they're fabulous. And you can catch me. I do a radio show in Essex on Phoenix FM 98.0 if you're in Essex, or phoenixfm.com every Tuesday at 6 o'clock. And just search Ben Simmons Radio on social media and you can find out all about it. But thanks for another great experience, guys.
Thank you, Ben. Yes, Ben, check out Ben's show. And if you did enjoy today's show, then please come back next week and tell your friends and family. And if you'd like to come on screen and join us with a goodbye, you are very welcome to. Otherwise, we bid you a good evening or a good afternoon to those of you in Canada. And hi, Anne. Thank you for joining us. And thank you so much. See you again soon.